Some of the most high achieving women are some of the most exhausted women. Now, when I say high achieving, that does not always reflect in one's bank account, as the collective has deemed as a marker of success. High achieving could be that you are the pillar of your community and you are the reason why children are able to eat throughout the summer. You are the backbone of your family and you are the reason that the whole system has just fallen apart. And you also could be that high achieving director, VP level individual, but at the end of the day, you all are experiencing the same level of deep cellular level exhaustion. And I'm here to tell you why. If you do any quick scroll on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, you will see a huge plethora of productivity hacks. If you feel exhausted, it's your fault, and there is a productivity malfunction that you need to resolve in order to get your dreams met. For women, especially, we take this as a personal failure and we begin to do everything possible to try to be more efficient, more disciplined, more organized, which goes against everything that is the feminine anyway. But we're doing this while being so deeply, painfully exhausted. When I think of this exhaustion, there is no level of concealer or coffee or stimulants that you can take that will ever quench it without you having a real, true wake up call and life pivot. For some women, this does become something huge and it becomes an excessively huge, life changing health impact that forces your hand to make different changes in your life. I want to be the one to tell you that this productivity hack that you're trying to do isn't going to solve the level of exhaustion you have. And there are some ways for you to tell that this exhaustion isn't just something that you can fix with a quick nap or a vacation. This is something that is on a larger scale on your personal life. When you live a life that is not aligned with who you are today, when you have to constantly put on a mask, a costume to engage with the world, you can't help but to accept and know that you will be operating in the least efficient way. So, yes, there is an efficiency issue, but it's not the efficiency issue that one would think. When you are having to constantly play someone that you're not, it takes so much more energy. I like to think of when we're having to mask, it's like being out in some backwoods ass area and your cell phone is draining way faster. Hasn't done a bunch that it would normally do in the city. Why it's draining so quickly is because it is having to work extra hard to try to reach signal, which is then impacting its ability to use the same level of energy to do what it normally does. So when you are masking, when you are having to put on a face constantly every single day, especially if this impacts your income, you've created a certain lifestyle for yourself, which there's nothing wrong with that. But unfortunately, you would have to sacrifice the lifestyle in order for you to begin to feel nourished again. Now, today I want to go over 7 ways that you can tell that you've outgrown your life that you've built and how to be able to begin to pivot into a way that is more ideal. Now, when I think of outgrown, you would not keep putting a baby, let's say this baby's 5, you wouldn't keep putting them in their like 1T, 2T, 3T clothing. That would be absurd. Well, that's the same thing that happens when you have outgrown certain goals, certain experiences and representations of life. It's going to be exhausting. Like, just imagine trying to stuff a 5-year-old in a onesie. Like, that's going to be insane. It's going to be crazy. But that's what we are doing when we keep pushing ourselves to show up the places that we should have said goodbye a long time ago. The first way you can tell is that your goals are no longer motivating to you. So the career, the relationships, the image, your expectations on life, they don't feel the same way. The years that you used to do your Pinterest boards, your vision boards, and you were super excited about those things. Now, when you think of them, you're kind of like, shrugs. Like it just doesn't have that same je ne sais quoi that they once did. Your goals were not wrong, they weren't bad. It wasn't being irresponsible. It was just that they often were just points of reference for you to pull yourself to move into a new way. So sometimes we have to take detours. And those detours can sometimes be by way of goals because there's something that we're learning, we need to be exposed to, or just to get us out of our area. Now, number two way of knowing that you've outgrown your life is that this level of exhaustion, no nap or vacation's going to fix. You can't outrest misalignment. Now, if it is something where you are exhibiting a whole bunch of physical symptoms, I would highly suggest you go to the doctor. Because unfortunately, what happens with women in this era is that we have been trained to push the mute button on our symptoms. And then that leads to us then finding out something huge in a say of a diagnosis because we have just been pushing, pushing, pushing to get to the goal. And this is especially double, quadruple times for women who have any types of intersectionality. You have to really acknowledge and take heed to the compounding nature of having to put on a mask. So if you are a woman who happens to be of some non-white ethnicity who may has autism and has another disability that may not be in the most financially stimulating environment, you have to compound those things. You have to see those compound, and that means it puts even more tension and weathering onto you. So when you can't take a nap and over time where you try to take naps, you try to sleep in, you try to do those things and it just doesn't resolve. That's a good sign to say that maybe the way I'm working, operating isn't functional anymore for me. Now, this is number three is one that I get when I work with clients because it's something that they don't necessarily want to share with the public. And that is that they feel a certain level of guilt of the life that they have. And this especially hits if you're someone who is in a mid-level career, you're trying to jump into a higher level, or if you have reached a higher level or started a business and or maybe you have, you've been a mom and you're wanting something different, but then there's something in you that kicks in and says that you are ungrateful. How dare you desire more? We have to really be a place of gratitude with where we are, thank it, appreciate it, but then also that gives us the space to be able to receive something new in our lives. When I work with clients, I always talk about my framework, and the first part of that framework is clarity. And clarity means really understanding precisely where you are in your life right now and to be able to honor it. Once you do that, you will be able to move so much more fluidly in your life. Number four kind of pivots with number three, and that is every single thing that you have, you feel like it is a uphill battle to maintain it. So it's you bought the nice house or live in a really nice apartment, you have the car, you have the friend groups, you have the guy, you have the job, and instead of being, like, excited about those things, you're just like, "Ooh, Lord, today drained me." And just the thought of, "Oh, I have to clean this house. I need to clean this apartment, or I need to go find someone to do that. I need to go clean my car. I need to go get it maintained. I need to be maintained." When you feel like it is just a lot to just keep up with what you have, you are operating under a more of survival mechanism. So, like, yes, you have the optic things, but at the true nature, it doesn't fulfill you. Because when I can think of times in my life where I had prayed for certain things to come to fruition, and then when the day came where I was actually in said prayer, I could be very joyful and grateful for it. And there's just like a level of devotion to it. But then there also came a time in which, yes, I'm grateful that I work from home, but I wish I could throw this laptop in traffic somewhere. I wish I could just delete and walk away from everything that I built because it feels there is no words to the level of exhaustion I feel by the thought of it. And this is a great indicator that you have outgrown that life. Like you are not ungrateful, but you know that this is no longer it. Sometimes when we have outgrown places, we become so frustrated with the basic things. Like you've been living here for years. Why today do you want to burn it down? And it's because you are starting to feel the true physical impacts of being out in a place that you are no longer meant to be in. When we've outgrown people, places, things, belief systems, um, ideals, limiting beliefs, it too drains us and it taps into our energy and it drains us out in such explicitly accelerated ways. But again, the way that our world is shaped, it is done in such a way, in such an innocuous way that we are not able to see what is and we keep churning and burning away. Number 5 might get me a downvote. You secretly envy women who are reinventing themselves. So, envy is one of these emotions that we give a lot of negative press to. We don't want to be envious of anyone that makes you seem like you're jealous, that you're a hater. But I just look at it as data points. When we see other women who are saying, you know what, I'm going to quit this job, I'm going to start this cupcake business, or I was working this business and I'm about to get this W-2 job, or I'm just going to become a mother and I'm going to be a stay-at-home wife and do this different lifestyle. We sometimes can see that when someone is starting over, they're getting firm about what it is that they want, which means they're getting a lot more authentic to themselves. Something in us activates and we become jealous. We wish that we had what they're having. And the thing that I want to make sure you understand, hopefully you're still listening, is that you have the same level of autonomy and sovereignty to do the same. Now, will it take sacrifice? Most definitely. Now, if you're extremely financially good, it might not take that much. It might mean a call with your CPA to figure out financials, but it could be really plausible. Now, where this can get a little bit more complicated is for the woman who does not have access to the financial means. Let's say you are the breadwinner for your household, you wanting to say quit your job that is essentially the crux of your household probably won't be as easy unless you're just daring and just don't care. Then that's your choice. But for the average woman, they're not going to just jump out there and do this because that would mean their children would suffer. But I want to say that if you do begin to feel this kind of prickliness towards women, and I see this and I've seen this for years online, I see it when a woman tends to take care of her outward beauty. That could mean she goes to the gym, she gets her hair done, her nails done, her lashes, like the whole gamut. She's at Sephora, she's a Sephora girl, like she's getting pampered, she's at the spa. And there are women who will say, oh, I don't need all that. I don't need that. I just need some lip gloss. Like, that's envy. I hate to break it to you if you don't know. Like, that's hater. Like, that's full on hater, hating ass bitch type energy. And it's not healthy. It's not good. But in the same breath, it's a really great diagnostic tool to give a reflection on where you are in your life. And instead of meeting it with such like, oh my God, I can't believe this, and try to squash it. No, sit with it, hold it up, examine it. Where did I fall off the wagon? How did I get here? What in my life makes me want to project this sort of energy? And it could be that you were raised this way because unfortunately some of this does come passed down generational. Sometimes it is that you once were that girl and then something went terribly wrong and you stopped caring for yourself. You stopped doing for yourself. You let societal indoctrination really seep into your mental space and prohibited you from doing. You allowed life to take away the stars in which you once dreamed about. We're almost done with this video. Number 6, the roles that you played feel real dense. They feel very outdated. So being the helper, the strong friend, the fixer, the responsible one, the one who doesn't have needs, that all feels like BS now. It makes you angry, sometimes really viscerally angry. And so this is a big indicator that you've outgrown those things. To some degree, I've mentioned in a last video that being needed, being useful used to fill your cup. It is the closest that thing that you got to love was to feel needed. Now, feeling needed feels like I wish I would block like I'm about to block you. Please lose my number. Do not reach out to me. I'm going to change my name. My name is no longer mom. Like, it is where we are. So when you feel this heaviness, again, don't run from it. Don't suppress it. Sit with it, acknowledge it, and analyze it, because that's going to give you key data points to when did this start to kick in? Like, when did I start to feel like this? And what is needed for you to get into a life in which you are holistically cared for. See, the difference when you live in a life that's you've outgrown, it's like a baby. When the baby is due is because they have eclipsed the space in your womb and they need some more breathing room. They need to be able to stretch out. And so they have to come on out of there. Some of them don't want to, from what I hear, but for most, it's time for them to expand. We're in such tight places, and when we get to that point, we get annoyed enough, we begin to move things out. And so now when you live in a life in which actually is expansive and expands as you expand, you feel holistically supported. And when you feel holistically supported, things magic can happen in your life. Now, to take us home, number 7, you keep asking yourself, is this it? Like, is this life? Paying bills, having just a little bit to do a few little things, and cooking and cleaning, hip pain, body starting to do rapidly weird things because we're aging as women. And you begin to say, keeping this husband happy, doing things that I don't want to do. Is this it? If that keeps swimming in your head, that is a huge ding, ding, ding indicator that you are not living a life that is fully for you and you have outgrown the life that you have. This question actually is really fruitful because it is evidence that you have eclipsed and evolved and grown substantially, because you're able to see what's going on, what's at play. And then you have now been able to articulate that in which no longer feels wonderful. Now, if you have recognized yourself in any of these signs, I want you to consider that the possibility of this exhaustion isn't to be seen in a negative light. I don't want you to think that you have done something horribly wrong. We have all been trained, programmed to go after life in a certain way. That's just done by systematic design. However, you are not the problem, or you are not the reason why it's happening, but you are responsible for pivoting. No one's going to pivot for you. No coach, no strategist, no one. If anyone says that they can, they are a lie. Now, they can help support you, guide you, provide you some wisdom, some insight. But at the end of the day, you must use your own discernment and your own free will, and really, truly your own vision about what life would really mean for you to be happy in. That's all inside job. No one can do that for you. People can give you some insights, but you ultimately are the one who's responsible. It's not your fault, but you are responsible. If not, then you will continue to live in a life that just depletes you, drains you, and no one deserves to live like that. That is a horrific way to live. Growth always requires us to release outdated identities that used to serve us. So at one point, you may have been single, you got married, now you're married. You can't hold on to the single identity anymore unless that's what y'all into. But most people, more times than not, we have to release identities. And I can say this from my own personal experience. When I used to be a lot heavier, I had a view of myself. And I remember after dropping 100 pounds, I remember going to a store and going automatic, went straight to the sizes that were way too big for me, and wondering, why did I keep doing this? Like, why am I going to this size? This is not my size anymore. I'm like, this is falling off of me. Why? Because I'm picking up identities. I'm holding on to things that no longer fit me. Like, we have moved past that. We're in a different area now. And sometimes the most courageous thing that you can do as a woman is to stop trying to be more efficient inside a life that you've outgrown. And that courageousness can be a spark for another woman to see that, you know what? Wow, so, the lady down the street, she's done this, and this. Like, I wish I could do the same. And if you're listening to this podcast, if you're hearing this and you want to help incite a friend, share it, comment. But you can show that, hey, it doesn't take any sort of magic trick to change your life. And there's so many stories out there of women who, they got to 40 and they started doing some really different things. And then there are women who get to 40 who essentially double down on trying to still live the life of their 20s, trying to still live goals and dreams of someone who's in their 20s, which, if we're honest, those goals weren't given or designed by you. They were designed by your parents, the school systems that you're in, your community. You have expanded 20 plus years, which means there's so much more data. There's so much more information. There are things that didn't exist 20 years ago that exist today that you're like, oh my God, I used to dream about this like a fantasy. And so now you get to expand and grow and be and live in a life that is truly supportive of you. I'd love to hear if this resonated for you. If you have some other ways of identifying that, hey, I'm living outside of my true self, would love to see those in the comments. And until next time, make sure you're living your best life.